Have you ever found yourself in a conversation with a native English speaker, nodding and smiling, but secretly wondering if you actually understood what they just said? You're not alone in this experience, and today we're going to change that forever. Imagine walking into a coffee shop in New York, London, or Sydney and feeling completely confident as you listen to the barista's recommendations, understand every word of the small talk, and even catch those quick, casual expressions that make conversations feel natural and real. This isn't just a dream, it's absolutely achievable, and I'm here to show you exactly how to make it happen. The secret isn't in memorizing thousands of vocabulary words or drilling grammar rules until your head spins. The real magic happens when you train your ears to catch the rhythm, the flow, and the natural patterns of everyday English conversations. Think of your listening skills like a muscle that grows stronger with the right kind of exercise, and today we're going to give that muscle the most effective workout it's ever had. Every single day, millions of English conversations happen around the world, from ordering breakfast to asking for directions, from chatting with colleagues to calling customer service. These daily interactions follow predictable patterns that you can learn, practice, and master. Once you understand these patterns, listening to English becomes as natural as breathing. But here's what makes this even more exciting. When you improve your listening skills, everything else follows. Your speaking becomes more natural because you've heard how words really sound. Your confidence skyrockets because you're not constantly worried about missing important information. And perhaps most importantly, you start to truly enjoy English conversations instead of just surviving them. Today, we're going on a journey together. We'll explore how your brain actually processes spoken English, discover the hidden patterns in daily conversations, learn a powerful expression that native speakers use constantly, and practice everything through fun, practical exercises that you can do right now. By the end of this lesson, you'll have a clear roadmap for transforming your English listening skills from good to absolutely outstanding. So grab a comfortable seat, maybe a cup of your favorite drink, and let's dive into the fascinating world of English listening practice. Trust me, this is going to be an adventure that changes how you experience English forever. Understanding how we learn to listen in a new language is like understanding how a detective solves a mystery. Your brain is constantly collecting clues, the tone of voice, the context of the situation, the expressions on people's faces, and of course, the words themselves. But here's the fascinating part. Your brain doesn't need to catch every single word to understand the complete message. Think about how you listen in your own language. When someone says, "I'll catch you later," you don't literally think about catching or being caught. Your brain automatically understands this means, "I'll see you later," or "I'll talk to you soon." This automatic understanding is exactly what we want to develop in English. And the beautiful news is that your brain is already designed to do this. We just need to train it properly. The journey of improving English listening skills happens in 3 distinct phases, and recognizing these phases will help you understand exactly where you are and what to focus on next. The first phase is what I call the word hunting phase. This is where many learners get stuck trying to catch and translate every individual word they hear. It's exhausting, frustrating, and actually slows down your progress because you're fighting against how your brain naturally wants to process language. The second phase is the pattern recognition phase. This is where magic starts to happen. Your brain begins to recognize common phrases, expressions, and the natural rhythm of English. Instead of hunting for individual words, you start hearing chunks of meaning. A phrase like, "How's it going?" becomes one unit of meaning, not 4 separate words to translate. The third phase is what I call the natural flow phase. This is where English listening becomes effortless and enjoyable. You understand not just the words, but the emotions, the intentions, and even the things that aren't said directly. You can follow conversations while doing other things, just like you do in your native language. Now, here's the exciting part. You don't have to wait years to experience moments of this natural flow. With the right practice methods, you can start having these breakthrough moments within weeks or even days. The key is to work with your brain's natural learning patterns instead of against them. Daily life conversations are absolutely perfect for this kind of training because they follow predictable structures. When you walk into a restaurant, certain phrases and exchanges almost always happen. When you're shopping for clothes, the conversations follow familiar patterns. When you're catching up with a friend, there are common ways these interactions unfold. This predictability is your secret weapon. Once you've heard and understood a conversation pattern in one context, your brain can apply that same pattern to similar situations. It's like learning to ride a bicycle. Once you get the balance and the rhythm, you can ride any bicycle anywhere. But here's where many language learners make a crucial mistake. They try to practice listening with content that's too difficult, too fast, or too far removed from real-life situations. It's like trying to learn to swim by jumping into the deep end of an Olympic pool. You might survive, but you won't develop good technique, and you definitely won't enjoy the process. The most effective approach is to start with conversations that are slightly easier than your current level. Focus on understanding the overall meaning rather than every word, and gradually increase the complexity as your confidence grows. This builds a solid foundation that supports rapid improvement and, equally important, keeps you motivated and excited about your progress. Think of yourself as a language detective building your case. Every conversation you listen to, every pattern you recognize, every new expression you understand, these are all pieces of evidence that prove you're becoming more fluent. Some days, you'll collect more evidence than others, but every single listening session moves you forward on this exciting journey. The wonderful truth about English listening practice is that opportunities surround you constantly. Podcasts during your commute, movies with subtitles in the evening, conversations you overhear in public places, video calls with English-speaking friends. Every moment of exposure is valuable practice. The key is to approach this practice with intention, curiosity, and patience with yourself. Now, let's dive into our teaching moment with one of the most useful and commonly used expressions in English, the phrasal verb to figure out. This little phrase is absolutely everywhere in daily conversations, and mastering it will give you a significant boost in understanding natural spoken English. To figure out means to understand something, to solve a problem, or to discover how something works. But what makes this expression so powerful is its incredible flexibility and the natural way it flows in conversation. Native speakers use it constantly because it's more casual and conversational than saying to understand or to solve. Listen to how natural this sounds. I need to figure out how to use this new app. Compare that to, I need to understand how to use this new app. Both sentences are correct, but the first one sounds much more like how people actually speak in everyday situations. The beauty of figure out is that it works in so many different contexts. You can figure out directions when you're lost. You can figure out what to cook for dinner when you're staring into your refrigerator. You can figure out why your computer isn't working properly. You can even figure out how you feel about something complicated in your life. Here's what makes this expression particularly interesting for English learners. It often appears with question words, creating patterns that you'll hear constantly in daily conversations. How do I figure this out? Can you help me figure out what this means? I can't figure out why this isn't working. These patterns become the building blocks of natural English communication. The pronunciation of figure out also teaches us something important about English rhythm. Native speakers often contract it to sound like figure out, and the stress falls on both fig and out, with the middle syllable almost disappearing. This is typical of how English flows naturally. Some syllables get emphasized while others get reduced. But here's where it gets really interesting for your listening practice. Figure out often appears in sentences where speakers are thinking out loud, working through problems, or asking for help. These are exactly the kinds of conversations that happen constantly in daily life, which means understanding this expression will unlock your comprehension of hundreds of real-world interactions. Let me share some examples that you might hear in typical daily situations. At work, someone might say, "I'm trying to figure out the best way to organize this project." In a store, you might hear, "I can't figure out which size would fit better." And with friends, someone could say, "Let's figure out where we want to go for lunch." Notice how in each of these examples, figure out creates a sense of process and discovery. It's not about instantly knowing something. It's about working toward understanding. This makes it perfect for everyday conversations because life is full of small problems, decisions, and discoveries that we need to work through. The expression also works beautifully with different tenses, and hearing these variations will help you recognize it in various contexts. "I figured out the answer yesterday." "She's trying to figure out what happened." "We'll figure out a solution tomorrow." Each tense creates a slightly different feeling, but the core meaning of working toward understanding remains consistent. For your listening practice, start paying special attention when you hear "figure out" in conversations, movies, podcasts, or any English content. Notice who uses it, when they use it, and what situations prompt this expression. You'll quickly discover that it's incredibly common and incredibly useful. One of the most valuable aspects of mastering expressions like "figure out" is that they give you insight into how English speakers actually think and communicate. Instead of saying, "I need to understand this problem," which sounds formal and academic, saying, "I need to figure this out" sounds natural, approachable, and conversational. This is the difference between textbook English and living English. Textbook English is correct and proper, but living English is what people actually use when they're talking to their friends, solving problems at work, or navigating daily challenges. When you understand expressions like "figure out," you're learning living English, and that's what will make your listening skills truly effective in real-world situations. Now comes the exciting part. Let's put everything we've learned into practice with some fun, engaging exercises that will strengthen your listening skills and help you master the expression "figure out" in realistic contexts. Our first practical exercise is called the Daily Detective Game. For the next week, I want you to become a detective, searching for the phrase "figure out" in everything you listen to in English. This could be Netflix shows, YouTube videos, podcasts, music, or even conversations you overhear in public. Every time you hear "figure out," make a mental note, or even better, write it down with a brief note about the context. Here's what makes this exercise so powerful. You're training your brain to recognize this specific pattern while simultaneously exposing yourself to natural English in various contexts. You might hear it in a cooking show where the chef says, "Let's figure out how to make this sauce thicker." You could catch it in a movie where a character says, "I need to figure out what she really meant." You might notice it in a business podcast where someone mentions, "We figured out a way to reduce costs." Each time you spot this expression, you're building neural pathways that make recognition faster and more automatic. It's like training your ear to pick out a specific instrument in an orchestra. Once you know what to listen for, you start hearing it everywhere. Our second exercise is the Figure Out Challenge. I want you to create 5 sentences using "figure out" about real situations in your own life. For example, "I need to figure out what to cook for dinner tonight," or "I'm trying to figure out how to improve my English pronunciation." The key is to make these sentences about genuine situations you're actually dealing with. Why is this so effective? Because when you connect new language to your real life, your brain treats it as important and useful information rather than just abstract knowledge. When you later hear someone else use "figure out" in a similar context, your brain will recognize it instantly because it's already associated with meaningful personal experiences. Now, let's take this a step further with the conversation prediction game. Choose a simple, everyday situation, ordering coffee, asking for directions, or buying groceries. Before you listen to any English content about this situation, spend 2 minutes thinking about what conversations might happen and where you might hear "figure out." 3. For the coffee shop scenario, you might predict hearing, "I can't figure out what I want to order," or "Can you help me figure out which drink has the most caffeine?" Then, when you watch English content about coffee shops or ordering drinks, listen specifically for these types of phrases. When your predictions turn out to be correct, your brain gets a satisfaction boost that strengthens memory and pattern recognition. Here's an incredibly fun exercise that I call the emotion detective. Figure out often appears when people are expressing confusion, frustration, curiosity, or excitement about solving something. While you're listening to English content, pay attention not just to the words, but to the emotions behind them. How does someone's voice sound when they say, "I can't figure this out"? How is it different when they say, "I finally figured it out"? This emotional awareness is crucial for real-world listening because tone and emotion carry huge amounts of meaning in English conversations. Sometimes the way someone says, "I'll figure it out," tells you whether they're confident, worried, determined, or frustrated, information that's just as important as the words themselves. Let's add another layer with the speed variation practice. Find the same conversation or dialogue in different formats, maybe a normal speed version and a slightly faster version, or the same content from different speakers. Practice listening for "figure out" and similar expressions at various speeds. This prepares your ear for real-world situations where people speak at different paces and with different accents. One of my favorite practical exercises is the context clue game. When you hear "figure out" in any English content, challenge yourself to understand what the speaker is trying to figure out, even if you don't catch every single word around it. Use context clues, the situation, the tone, the other words you do understand, to piece together the complete meaning. This mirrors exactly what happens in real conversations. You might not catch every word, but you can still understand the overall message by combining the words you do hear with contextual information. This skill is absolutely essential for confident listening in natural English environments. For our final practical exercise, let's do something called the teaching challenge. Explain to an imaginary friend how to use "figure out" in 3 different situations. Actually say this out loud, as if you're teaching someone who's never heard this expression before. Use simple examples and explain why this phrase is useful in daily English conversations. When you can teach something clearly, it means you truly understand it. This exercise helps solidify your knowledge while also improving your speaking skills. Plus, the act of explaining something out loud helps your brain organize and retain the information more effectively. Remember, the goal of all these exercises isn't just to memorize one expression. It's to develop the listening skills and pattern recognition abilities that will help you understand thousands of expressions and conversations throughout your English learning journey. Each time you successfully identify, figure out, or understand its meaning from context, you're building confidence and competence that extends far beyond this single phrase. These practical applications should feel like games rather than work. If you find yourself getting tired or frustrated, take a break and come back when you're feeling curious and energetic again. The most effective language learning happens when you're relaxed, engaged, and enjoying the process of discovery. As we wrap up our journey together today, I want you to take a moment to appreciate something remarkable that's already happening inside your brain. Right now, as I'm speaking these words, your English listening skills are stronger than they were an hour ago. You've trained your ear to recognize patterns. You've learned a powerful expression that appears in countless daily conversations. And you've practiced specific techniques that will serve you well in real-world situations. This is how language learning really works. Not in dramatic overnight transformations, but but in small, consistent improvements that accumulate into significant progress over time. Every conversation you listen to, every pattern you recognize, every moment of understanding builds upon the foundation we've created today. The expression, "figure out," that we focused on is just one example of the thousands of natural phrases and patterns that make English conversations flow smoothly. But now you have a proven method for learning any expression. Listen for it actively, practice it in real contexts, pay attention to emotions and situations where it appears, and use it in your own meaningful sentences. Think of your English listening journey like learning to appreciate music. At first, you might only hear the loudest instruments or the most obvious melodies. But as your ear develops, you start noticing subtle harmonies, complex rhythms, and nuanced emotions that make each piece of music rich and beautiful. The same thing happens with English. As your listening skills develop, you'll start hearing layers of meaning, cultural references, humor, and emotion that make every conversation more interesting and enjoyable. I want to encourage you to be patient and kind with yourself as you continue this journey. Some days, English will feel clear and easy to understand. Other days, it might feel like everyone is speaking too fast or using unfamiliar expressions. Both experiences are completely normal and necessary parts of developing strong listening skills. The key is to maintain consistent practice while keeping your learning experience joyful and sustainable. Remember, you're not just learning a language, you're opening doors to new friendships, career opportunities, cultural experiences, and ways of thinking about the world. Every moment you spend improving your English listening skills is an investment in a richer, more connected future. Your homework, though I prefer to think of it as your English adventure, is to continue seeking out daily conversation practice. Listen to English content that genuinely interests you, whether that's cooking shows, travel vlogs, business podcasts, or comedy videos. The more you enjoy what you're listening to, the more effectively you'll learn from it. Pay special attention to conversations that happen in situations you encounter in your own life. If you work in an office, listen to English workplace conversations. If you love cooking, focus on food-related content. If you're planning to travel, seek out conversations about hotels, restaurants, and tourist activities. This targeted practice will give you confidence and vocabulary for situations that matter most to you. Remember our detective work with figure out. This same approach works with any expression or pattern you want to master. Choose something you hear frequently, become curious about it, and start noticing it everywhere. Before long, you'll be using it naturally in your own conversations. Most importantly, celebrate your progress regularly. Notice when you understand a joke that you might have missed before. Appreciate moments when you follow a conversation without having to translate in your head. Acknowledge when you catch expressions like figure out automatically without having to think about their meaning. These small victories are proof that your brain is becoming more fluent in English every single day. Trust the process, enjoy the journey, and remember that every expert was once a beginner who refused to give up. English listening skills open up a world of connection, understanding, and opportunity. You're well on your way to mastering this essential skill, and I'm genuinely excited about all the conversations, experiences, and discoveries that await you as you continue growing stronger and more confident. Keep listening, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep believing in your ability to achieve the English fluency you dream of. You've got this, and I'm cheering you on every step of the way. I'd love to know where in the world you're watching this from. Please take a moment to comment below and tell me which country you're joining us from today. It's always amazing to see our global community of English learners supporting each other on this journey. If this lesson helped you understand something new about English listening practice, or if you're excited to try the Figure Out Detective Challenge, please give this video a thumbs up. Your likes help other English learners find this content and join our community of passionate language learners. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and ring the notification bell so you never miss our new lessons. We're constantly creating new content to help you master English in practical, enjoyable ways, and I want to make sure you're part of every exciting lesson we share. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and remember, every conversation is an opportunity to grow stronger in English.